back, everybody. We're here out at Battlefield Las Vegas, and with me I have Sean. He's one of the armorers out here. I tried to get some footage in the beginning of this video that you guys saw of just how massive an operation this is, but the round count these guys go through here is insane. It's about 300,000 rounds a month on the low end. So a lot of times it's much higher than that. So it's a full-blown operation to maintain these guns, keep them clean, keep them working, and keep them in safe condition to get them out there on the line. So what I just wanted to do here was go over some common weapon systems platforms and just talk about how long they last, when they see breakages, and those types of things. So we got a few laid out here on the table, and we're going to go through each weapon system and then see what breaks on them and how they maintain them. First off, we're going to go over a weapon system that's known for being extremely durable, rugged, reliable, and all that. It's going to be the AK. So if you could, just take us through the gun and some of the points that you see failures on it, what fails, and really what kind of round count we see that at.
Okay, first of all, with the AK, it's a very durable weapon. We hardly ever see any real breakages in it. Recoil springs go out pretty fast. They last about a month, give or take. And specifically with these, we're running about 10 to 12,000 rounds individually on these AKs a month. We do see extractor springs fail, but other than that, structurally is where they fail. But it's after 50,000 rounds, the rear trunnions start to crack. We shoot out barrels most commonly. We shoot right through all the chrome lining, and then once they start keyholing, we pull them.
Okay, if you could just, there's a ton of different AK variants they have out here. What kind of differences do you see with milled versus stamped?
Receiver-wise, milled receiver is the king. Milled receivers, I haven't seen a single one fail yet. We've shot them all the way until their barrels fail completely, and we haven't broke a single one. They have the smoothest actions, most durably built, all around better than the stamp for sure.
Awesome. They have all different variants out here from different countries: Romania, Russia, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, and I know there's some controversy with the Yugo rifles, whether or not they're going to hold up, particularly the ones from the Zastava factory. So what do you see with those rifles?
Yeah, the MPAPs we have seen break more often than not here. Really, believe it or not, the thing on the Zastavas that came in with us is their wood, their furniture that they use. We crack their buttstocks within the first few days here, which is weird, but usually right around the rear tang, right there, it'll crack off about 3 inches down every single time. As soon as we get them now, we just change out the furniture completely because we know that they're just going to break. Chinese AKs, the Norinkos, great AK. Those last forever. The Russian ones, they last forever as well, but those are our milled ones. So
there you go.
Very touched on that.
Next up, we're going to go over America's sweetheart, the AR-15, our M4 rifle. We'll turn it over to the man that knows better than I. What kind of parts breakages do we normally see on these, and what round count do we see them at?
I'd say the most common breakage on this is going to be the hammer spring. Even if we use like extra power hammer springs, they all go about the same. Bolts, we shear 1 to 2 lugs off of a bolt. When they do fail, that's the one that does. Other than that, we do egg out some low receiver pinholes once in a while. It's rare, but it does happen.
And they're running those full auto, and an M4 in this place is going to see 20 to 30,000 rounds a month. Again, that's on the low end. It could be much higher during convention season and things like that. So the round count he's talking about is just very, very high. One topic that always comes up on the forums is piston versus DI. So what have you guys seen with the guns that you run here?
Our impingement systems, our direct impingement systems are the majority of our guns here. They're quick, they're easy to maintain. We can change them in and out in just a couple of minutes. We do have some weapons that are piston, the AK-47s, for example, which is a great gun. They run flawlessly. They have the same exact failures as every other gun with the bolts and the lugs shearing off. I'd call them equal as far as their longevity is concerned. It's just, do you have money to spend on a direct impingement system, or do you have money to spend on a piston? It's just more expensive to maintain the piston.
Got it. Okay. And just in terms of wear and tear, what do you think is actually putting the stress on these rifles? Obviously, we have a high round count, but
I would say the heat cycling of these guns, they get hot really fast, and then they cool down really fast, and then they get hot again. And it's just over and over every single day. And even though we rotate these guns quite often, the heat cycling is definitely what kills a lot of these guns here.
Okay. And one thing that was mentioned off camera in terms of brands of what runs well, they mentioned a few of them, but one thing I think that's gonna, I don't want to say surprise some people, but give some people hope with the guns that they purchased and reinforce their purchase, if you will, is they did mention that a lot of the Palmetto State Armory, some of their Cold Hammer forged and FN barreled uppers are running really well. So just throwing that out there while we're talking about the AR-15, because I know a lot of people were asking about it. So I'll just drop that here on camera, so that way everybody doesn't have to post below in the comments section. The next gun we're going to go over is the HK MP5 and its variants. This is one of the more popular guns from what I understand here, and we'll just turn it over to Sean and talk about some of the variants and then what they see go on these rifles as they're being used.
We run HK variants, POF, Zenith. This is definitely the most used weapon in our arsenal. Everybody from kids to women, full-grown guys shoot this all day long. We're running about 25 to 30,000 rounds a month through these guns. They're being rotated out every single day. The number one failure on them is definitely their extractor springs. It's about every 2 days, I would say, that we're replacing extractor springs per gun. It adds up quick. The other one is probably the ejector. The ejector gets banged up and peened out pretty easily. Recoil springs, obviously, we have to change out, just like any other gun, quite often as well. We run these guns pretty much until their receivers start dimpling out in the rear. The inertia from the bolt traveling to the rear presses the rollers out into the receiver and actually dimples the receiver pretty good, and then the bolt starts sticking and dragging and things like that.
Yep. And just to give you an idea, he said every 2 days they're changing that spring out, and they're running about 30,000 rounds a month through these guns. So you can do the math on your own and see just what kind of usage they're getting out of it before they start to see issues with it.
Yeah, we run these to the point where the face of the barrel where it mates up to the bolt has worn down so much that headspace can no longer bolt gap can no longer be achieved, and then we have to replace the barrels as well. But I'd say that definitely the extractor spring is the number one killer of this gun.
But everyone around here, I should also point out, talks pretty positively about it, about the durability and reliability of it. So it seems to get good marks here with the high round count. The next gun we're going to cover is one that I actually wasn't expecting to cover, but got pretty high marks from the armorers back here, and that's the SCAR-16 that you see here. So if you could just go into some of the reasons why folks here seem to like it.
Well, this gun right here, not specifically this one, but we've had a SCAR that we've had since the day we opened, just over 3 years ago, and that gun is in the to be conservative, 200,000 round count, and we have replaced maybe 2 parts on the entire gun ever. One of them being the barrel, and then the other one we broke a hammer. We broke a hammer and replaced a barrel on it. Other than that, no gun in this entire building, pound for pound, cost for cost, is cheaper to maintain than this gun. Only because it never breaks, ever. Absolutely nothing breaks on it.
And I know out there on the forums, a lot of people are always asking, SCAR-16, is it worth it? Why get a SCAR-16 if you can get an AR-15 for $1,000 less that'll run well? Well, most folks aren't going to put tons of rounds through it like these guys do, nowhere near 200,000 rounds, but I just thought that was an important thing to throw in this video, because when they said that, I was like, wow, that's high praise for a gun that gets a lot of hate out there on the internet. You know, a lot of people talk bad about it, and to talk to these guys, to see these things run hard, probably harder than any of us have ever seen, it's definitely something I wanted to throw in there. I'm a big fan of the 17, but honestly, I don't have much time behind the 16, and maybe now I will. Next up, we're going to get into pistols. The Glock 17, one of the more popular guns here. He was telling me off camera that these get about 30 mags per day going through them, and that's, again, on the conservative side, so you can do the math and know that they do get a pretty high round count. You could go over some of the things that you see with these guns.
Yeah, these are actually probably, I didn't, when I started here, I wasn't a big Glock guy, but after seeing how these run, I'm absolutely a fan. When you're running, say, 14,000 rounds per gun per month, it's a considerable amount of ammo. The number one thing that we replace on these is probably the trigger return spring. We have broke a few trigger bars on them. Recoil springs, like every other gun, that's just a average thing that gets replaced in every gun. But recoil springs, we try to replace once every 2 weeks, and that adds up very quickly as well. Other than that, this gun just keeps on singing. And most of those parts, like trigger return spring or trigger bar, when those break, they continue to shoot. We don't actually end up seeing it until we come out there and grab it for cleaning and we tear it down. We're like, oh, that's broken, because they just keep on chunking along.
So, would you say that there's any other pistols here that have like the durability that the Glock pistols have that are comparable to it?
I would say the SIG P226 is pretty durable as well. I'm not a big fan of it, but it definitely lasts quite. That's probably the second most shot pistol here. It's just a lot more difficult to replace the parts on them. It's a lot harder to get into the gun and change the parts when they do break.
So yeah, that's what a few different people told me off camera. So it seems to be the consensus here. Those ones seem to hold up pretty well, the 226 and the Glock 17, which makes sense. If you guys look at the history of the military trials of both of those pistols, those results sort of back up what he's saying, that they do run. Like them or hate them, they seem to run pretty well. Next up for pistols, we're going to talk about the 1911. I know if I didn't bring it up, you guys would be asking about it. So if you could just go through some of the guns that we have here and what you've seen with them in terms of parts breakages. And
we have multiple different manufacturers of 1911s here. We carry Rock Island. We have a Colt. We have Springfield. Most of them are SIGs. I guess, dollar for dollar, honestly, the Rock Island lasts the longest. They all have the same problems. They're the exact same gun. The number one problem we see with these is probably safeties breaking off or sear hammer interfaces, where they just get worn to the point that if you charge the slide and drop it, it'll drop the hammer down into half cock. It's probably the number one thing we see here the most.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to bring this up amongst many is, like I said, we talked about the SIG, the Glock, again, military-proven pistols, and I know there's a lot of 1911 fans out there, 100-year-plus technology that's still out here being used. And then they mentioned the Rock Islands performing relatively well, and you guys know who watch the channel, I've actually had good things to say about Rock Islands as well. I've never had any issues with them. They may not be as pretty as some of the others, but mine always work. And to hear that they're running with some of the other companies. Like you said, they got some SIGs out here, the Colts. But yeah, 1911s, there's no doubt about it, versus a Glock or a SIG. They do require more armor maintenance, without question. I've said that many times, and these guys have certainly confirmed that here today. The last gun we're going to cover here is the M249. A lot of you guys are familiar with it from your time in the military. Now these ones, interestingly enough, are actually the semi-auto versions that they released. These guys obviously have all the licensing to convert them over to full auto. So this is a commercial M249 that FN has out. I think they're going for like $9,000 to $10,000 out there for civilians. They converted it over to full auto. And if you could just talk about some of the performance that you see with these guns.
I haven't seen one difference from this saw compared to the ones that we carried in the military. And these run all day, every day, not a single hiccup. We do barrel changes on regular intervals, just like you should. But recoil springs is the only thing we've ever had to replace in them in the last 3 months. So at least that we've had, at least for the semi-auto ones, for sure.
And he said that they're running about 10,000 rounds per month through them, so certainly getting a pretty high round count. And just again to clarify, he said the semi-auto ones, they're running them in full auto. So yeah. I just wanted to sort of cover that because I know people have questions about the durability of the semi-auto ones, if they're similar to the full auto ones, and all those different things. And from what I've heard today, they seem to be the same gun, just
they have like 2 parts different. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. They're just modified for the civilian market to be able to get them out to you guys without all the licensing. We could probably go over the different weapons all day long at different failure points, but I just wanted to cover some of the main ones, which we certainly did there. Again, apologize if the audio wasn't so great in there, but it is a working armorer shop. So those guys that are cleaning guns, fixing problems, hammering stuff with mallets, like they have AKs, so we know the only way to fix an AK is with a bigger hammer. So they're in there doing that, but it's really impressive to see what goes into making a place like this run. You know, when you're, if you're a veteran, you know the logistical system in the military is pretty robust. These guys don't have that advantage, so they're out here trying to get parts, fit parts, sometimes machining their own parts, and it's really impressive what they do here considering the round count they go through and how they have to replace guns in their life cycle. So definitely a good experience, and I think he was a good guy to talk to because he's been here, I believe, 4 years working on these guns day in and day out. So what he's seen, it definitely holds some weight in my opinion. I'm guessing you guys out there are going to agree with that as well. So once again, thanks to the folks at Battlefield Las Vegas for having us out here, sharing their knowledge with us, which in turn I'm trying to share with you guys. And that's about it. If you guys have any questions or comments, by all means, post below in the comments section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. But thanks again, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.
You still don't like it, huh? Even though you're holding it?
No.
This thing is
I'll
so-
take the weight of the 240 any day.
Really?
For reliability, man. I don't know. Maybe they're just junk sauce.